Reggie Bush next hour. Greg Jennings. Good stuff today. So I believe that the New York Giants, I've been told this, are willing to move Odell Beckham. But there's a lot of optics here, what they want to get in return. I have been told, two different sources, there's two teams that Odell Beckham would prefer to play with. Rams, 49ers. So there's a lot of things going on here. The New York Giants general manager, I'm told, would like to move him. But he is so popular among fans. He's their best player, most exciting player, and he's a transformational talent that you just can't give him away. You got to get something big. The Niners have the number 2 pick. The Niners wouldn't mind giving away a first-rounder for Odell, but they don't want to give away the number 2 pick. That is really valuable. 17th pick, 24th pick. By next year, San Francisco's not going to have the number 2 pick. San Francisco's going to be a much better team, probably much closer to 8 and 8, 9 and 7, or better. So the pick would be the 23rd. Optically, transactionally, you'd be much more comfortable trading a 23rd pick. But a second pick, that's worth more. That is incredibly valuable. So San Francisco wants him, I'm told, really, really bad. But they don't want to give up the number 2 pick. Maybe next year's first round. The Giants, by the way, are willing to part with him. But they want the number 2 pick because they want to feel like they win this situation. You got Philadelphia's kicking butt in your division. Dallas is kicking butt in your division. You have become a rebuilding team. You just don't want to admit it to your fans. You have an Eli situation. Now you've lost Landon Collins, Olivier Vernon, overpaid maybe, but still talented players. They have to win this deal. And so I think Odell has teams he's interested in. One of them, San Francisco, wants him. New York, I'm told, is willing to take calls. Jay Glazer was on our show yesterday. He said, divorces happen. It's okay.
There's no animosity. There's no hate. Sometimes it's just time for a change of scenery. Remember now, last year, they were talking about moving on last year from him, right? When he wanted a new deal. And there was a lot that John Mara was saying. Pat Shurmur was the one who went in there and said, no, I want him. Let's salvage this. Let's save him. I want him here. And there were a lot of teams. The Rams were interested. The Patriots were interested. There were teams they were talking to and they were looking at. But Pat Shurmur was like, just let me have him. I know I could do this. And it's just,
by the way,
it didn't arise.
What happened at the end of last year, Jay? He didn't play.
Didn't play. And what happened?
Giants played well.
Giants played very well.
Yeah. This is a situation where the general manager in New York now is absolutely willing to move him. But that general manager not going to keep that job long because the Giants don't look like in that division they have a roster that can compete for the title. Philadelphia, Dallas just have more good players and probably better coaches. So this is a lot of optics. But San Francisco, never forget this. Kyle Shanahan's the coach. Julio Jones, his best years were with Kyle Shanahan. So Shanahan has a tight end in George Kittle from Iowa, who's a great player. They drafted a receiver last year. They have the number 2 pick. They've got an offensive-minded head coach. Odell would be a massive home run for San Francisco. A massive home run, a great fit. I'd love to see it, frankly, because I think Eli Manning's a shot fighter, and I think Jimmy Garoppolo with Odell Beckham would be one of the most fascinating combos in the NFL. So I'm rooting for it. And Shanahan would make it would be Moss and Brady. It would be over-the-top numbers for Odell Beckham. And I think deep down, though he wouldn't admit it to me, deep down, Odell Beckham is wildly frustrated in New York, and he's really frustrated with Eli, and he's really frustrated with a roster, and he feels he's an all-time talent, and he feels he's wasting his years. And then when he goes out and gets hurt, when players get hurt, it messes with them. They see the end of their career. They see Hall of Fame out of their grasp. So keep your eye on this. Odell Beckham, San Francisco, New York. I still think there's a shot it would happen, and I think it would be the best for everybody because I don't think he's a good fit in New York, and I think he'd be a great fit in San Francisco. Joy with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So last night, Russell Westbrook got into a verbal altercation with a Utah Jazz fan. Westbrook was recorded shouting at the fan, and after the game, He called the comments disrespectful and racial that the fans made towards him. Well, the Jazz released a statement. They said, we're continuing to investigate the unfortunate exchange at tonight's game between Russell Westbrook and fans. Multiple warning cards were issued by arena security. Players and fans have a shared responsibility to create a safe and respectful environment. If it is determined that any fans violated the NBA Code of Conduct, appropriate action will be taken. Well, Patrick Patterson was sitting next to Russell Westbrook on the bench. He tweeted after the game, fans can say bleep about a man's family, wife, and kids. Tell a player, get down on your knees like you used to. As men, what do you expect us to do? Shut up and dribble. No one is held accountable for their actions except for us. Fans are protected in every way possible, but not us. And then someone tweeted and asked him if that was actually said to Russ, and he responded and said yes and more. So obviously the NBA is going to investigate this incident because it's everywhere. The Jazz are going to investigate it. I'm sure the Thunder will have something to say. There's a lot that's been thrown out there on social media since this has happened with that fan, and obviously they interviewed him after the game. My opinion has been consistent on this from way back. I've always felt like fans in all sports have way too much leniency when it comes to what they say towards players. It makes it uncomfortable for other fans in the arena and in stadiums. I mean, I've had grown men twice my size get in my inches from my face and scream at me and curse at me. Like, it's an insane environment for a lot of people. Yeah. I don't really know what reason Russ and Patrick Patterson have to lie about this. I know that people feel a certain type of way about Russ, but what people are forgetting is that this is entertainment. Just because you buy a ticket doesn't give you some entitlement to speak or have the ability to touch or interact with players on the intimate level that people feel like. And the NBA, like you said earlier, is a whole other level because this is the only sport where you're that close to players. So to me, the NBA just has to create a policy where players can actually report when things like this are happening, and NBA security follows up right away and investigates it, and then fans are banned.
Yeah, NBA, and the other thing is, God, sports just sometimes, the NBA is making so much money on their TV deals. Do individual teams really need to sell an extra 8 seats up close? So when I go to an NBA game, it is always shocking to me that the fans are sitting next to star players. Like, at some point, save the $8,000 you make a night and give players a little space because, listen, you lubricate them socially with alcohol, so half of these fans are liquored up. And by the way, when you go to a Laker game, for instance, they have cocktail servers. Right. So you don't have to even get up anymore. They're just bringing drink after drink after drink.
But even when alcohol's not involved, like I do think that does play a part in a lot of incidents, obviously. But, these people get liquid courage. But even when it's not involved, you have to protect the players because they're the ones that lose in this situation. If something goes awry,
it kills their brand.
It's only bad for the players. The fan's going to get a pass no matter what was said or what goes on because it's the responsibility of the player to maintain his cool. And these are human beings. Like, it's just not rational. This has been the culture in sports for forever, and it's always a thing like, well, it's just part of the game. It's not. It doesn't have to be part of the game. It's ludicrous. You would never behave that way in the public walking down the street, ever. You would never walk up to Russell Westbrook and say something like that. I don't know why people feel comfortable.
And they
feel like there's like this invisible bubble protecting you. You don't really want to smoke. You don't. So why do you think that it's available
And
to
I
you?
also think you've got a player in Westbrook where the frequency's adding up. So he's going through some things. He had surgery, then he gets a star teammate, and I think fans now are, when he struggles, they toss him around. It's just like an escalating situation where
I think Westbrook, off the court as a person, his character can't be questioned.
Right.
He's never been in trouble. He's a family guy. Like he's involved in the community. That's a whole separate thing.
But when he comes into the arena,
he's a villain and he wears the black hat. And you need a villain in sports, and that's fine. I think he's comfortable with that. But fans have to be able to separate that as well. This is entertainment. You're paying to be entertained. This isn't an interactive experience. Like, you can yell, but there's a line, and it should be common sense. And the racial thing is just a whole other element to it that you can go on and on about. But the NBA has to do something. So it looks like the Jags will pay Nick Foles a king's ransom in exchange for not being Blake Bortles. They gave him a 4-year deal. $88 million with more than $50 million guaranteed.
Yeah, the guaranteed money helps out a little bit. So at the end of that contract, if it doesn't work, you're not paying him much. Basically, you paid him a fortune for 2 years to be able to work with the talent you have. And
they do have a lot of talent.
Yes.
So he's an average salary of $22 million, which is more than, you're going to compare him to some other quarterbacks, Russell Wilson.
It's not outrageous.
Rivers, Newton, Brady. I don't get crazy about who makes more than whoever. Whenever your contract is up, you're going to be paid whatever it is you're worth.
Listen, I'll take Nick Foles at $22 million over Kirk Cousins at $29.5 million. So, and I think Foles is a slightly better player than, but the money, like, to me, I don't think Nick's a top 12 quarterback. But at $22 million, I'm okay with that. I can live with that.
I'm just not going to get crazy about the money. You need a reliable quarterback. Blake Bortles had plenty of opportunities to show if he was the guy, and he's not. And it's being reported that they're going to release Bortles. So
yes,
we'll see what happens there. Finally, Deshaun Jackson got his wish. The Bucs traded him to the Eagles yesterday in exchange for a 7th-round pick. He worked his contract for 3 years and $27 million.
I didn't think the Eagles had any money left. They signed 3 guys yesterday.
They're out here making moves.
They are super. Howie Roseman is super aggressive.
I like this move, though, for
So do I.
Philadelphia.
He can still play.
Yeah. And, I mean, he's comfortable there. And it's where he wanted to be. You give Carson Wentz another weapon. I really like what the Eagles have done so far this offseason.
Yeah, I do, too. You know, it's funny. The NFC's got some really aggressive general managers. John Snyder in Seattle is very aggressive. Howie Roseman, Les Snead, Mickey Loomis. The AFC generally, they're not quite as aggressive. But the NFC, which is a lot of big markets, remember the NFC's got your Dallas, your Atlanta, your Los Angeles, more big cities. New York's represented, Philadelphia, Chicago. So you've got big media, big money, big game day revenue, big expectations, a lot of pressure. And I think the general managers in the NFC respond to it. These big media, big market, big flash.
We say it all the time, aggressive wins.
Aggressive wins. And Philadelphia I'll tell you, this morning I wake up, it is hard to not like the Philadelphia Eagles, to be a favorite or co-favorite in the NFC. I love it. All right. Good stuff. Joe, over the news.